Guys, so this video is about why using a system in golf is going to help you improve and also help me improve you also as players. I hope you enjoy the video. Why use a system? Well, if you don't know where you are and you don't know where you're going, you're basically lost. And this is certainly how I felt about my game. You know, whatever I put in, how much effort I put into practice, and you know, I was throwing different bits of my golf swing, on my chipping, and my putting, and I didn't really see any discernible difference. I didn't see any benefit from that. I didn't see myself getting any better. I had no measurement of. One day I might work on grip pressure, one day I might work on my stance width, one day I might work on tempo, and it didn't seem to get any better, no matter how much practice I put in. So why I use this system is, as people use systems to organise knowledge and help us build and make decisions based upon a predicted outcome of events. So for example, in the golf swing, what if I'm working on something, I need to have an understanding of what these different influences in my technique or what I'm doing, how that is gonna influence what the ball does. And I think a system for understanding golf helps you decide where to start, where to prioritize what you're working on with your game. So if you've got a slice, if you're lacking with power, you're struggling with hitting the ball fat, you know, having a system and a model, which I'll go into in a second, is crucial for that. This will give you a map and a direction of where to start in order to shape your improvement. So I think the model for golf is for us to hit the ball the best, the relevant distance, and the straightest most often, and that's a model that I teach. So prioritizing the first piece I look at in any swing will be the contact, and in this video I'm going to focus a little bit more on short game. It's very much the same with anything, you know, contact, power and direction. They're the three fundamentals for me over maybe a grip, stance, posture and alignment. If you go to a PGA Tour range, you see players doing various different things, so I wouldn't say that they're a fundamental, I'd say they're a variable. For you to play your best golf, we need to hit the ball solid, we need to hit the ball far enough to play, and we need that ball to go in the direction that we want it to go to. And the same applies to short game putting. We need the contact to be good, we need to have the relevant power, and we need to hit the ball in the direction of where we want that ball to go towards our target. So I think that's the model. We're always going to be looking at contact. For me, keeping the centre of the arc stable, which would be your left shoulder, and then controlling the radius of the golf swing. So that's the club head and left arm in relation to the centre of your swing. Is that moving up or down? How does that affect strike? Secondly, for me, the power. So in short game, again, that's am I creating the right power for the shot? Am I hitting it too far, too short? And then whilst doing 1 and 2 is then controlling. So 1 and 2 have to be done well. 1 especially has to be done well. That would relate to power. If you're striking it well, your power control will be much better. And the third would be the direction of the golf ball. Is it pushing? Is it pulling? Is it curving? What's happening there? So is that my face and the various actors? Is the face closing, opening to where I'm swinging the golf club? So that's my model. It is a contact, first of all, hitting the ball far enough then for the relevant distance, and relating it again to short game in here, and then the direction. All those three things there, that would be that's my model, and that's how I'd look at all the various pieces. So I'm going to delve into a little before and after that I did with my short game, and just a few things I was looking at. So I was struggling with some strikes, hitting it high on the face, sometimes not, then low on the face, then struggling with some distance. So most of my shots were going too short, and then the odd one would go too far quite significantly. And then the third would be my ball was actually curving left, and then some were pushing as well. So you know, struggling with my dispersion, trying to hit the ball close to the hole. So hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Feel free to get in contact with me if you think that understanding a system is going to benefit your golf, and that's something that I can help you with. And I'll see you all soon. So utilising a system, how do I implement that with myself? Or again, understanding that the swing cannot be understood without considering its function. And to understand the function, what are the fundamentals that I'm looking for? So that would be the contact, that would be hitting the ball at the centre of the face and making sure that I hit the ground after the golf ball. Whilst creating the appropriate amount of power, and the pieces used to control the power of the ball. Again, this can relate back to strike also. And then the final piece would be the direction. And for this we have a model. So with the contact, first fundamental is keeping the centre of the arc stable and the radius constant. So what do I mean by that? Well, the centre of the swing, if we draw the centre of the arc, okay, is from the lead shoulder down towards the ground. Okay, now this should be where I hit the ground if I keep the axis of my shoulder turn stable. So for example here, keeping my head in this box here. The accumulation of power. So from the centre to the outside of the circle, I would form a radius, and this would be the left arm and the shaft this way. Okay, and if I draw my target line in, which is one here, just across here, if I drew a line at 90 degrees to the radius, you can see here that that is producing that downward hit. Okay, you can see here that is producing that downward hit. So what do I mean by keeping the radius constant? Well, if this radius were to shorten and narrow, if it shortened somewhat, so if the radius became narrower here and the arrow was the club head, I would thin the ball, I wouldn't hit the ground. If the radius became wider and I lengthened it, I would start to hit the ground before the golf ball, and the club head would get too far into the ground, resulting in quite significant divots. So the power, which is the second fundamental, it's the accumulation of power, and this is by the tilting of the shoulders and using the arms for some force, much like throwing a ball. If for a short game, if you were to throw a ball in a bucket, you would start to use these arms to thrust the ball, okay, outwards. Notice the tilting of the shoulders also, that is accumulating some length of the arc, which will control the power. Okay, for the direction, so we refer to the one on the left here, the down the line view. This is my target view here. We draw the grid on the ground, so the arc on the ground, okay, that I swing the golf club on. Because we play at a tilted angle, this arc is going to be slightly bentward this way. So the club face's relationship to this arc, you can see how the club moves back and forward through there. The club face's relationship to this and the arc and the actual direction of the arc. So if the arc was actually more directed this way, so I'd be 2 out, 2 in, or I'd be also 2 in, 2 out, and the corresponding club face angle with that is going to affect the direction of the golf ball and also the start line with the club face, where the club face is pointing at impact. So okay, moving on to understanding some problems here. So my shots that I was hitting the ball, struggling with a bit of direction, so I was struggling with a pull shot, so the ball starting left, and I was struggling with a bit of contact. Some of my shots were coming up short, and then, which was a reaction to the actual problem, which was the shot that went along with no spin. Some of my contact was high on the face of the club, and it would go too high, would launch too high, and the ball would come out with less spin as a result of that. This is a diagnosis using the system. This is the club face staying square to the arc. It's getting potentially too closed, and therefore the ball starting left. So understanding the 3 fundamentals, I was able to implement some changes. The most important one being the contact, so ensuring that I was striking the ball out the centre. And secondly, how much power I was utilising, so using my arms a little bit better and not the wrists. And then the third one, which I'll move on to in a second, would be understanding how I was controlling the club face. So just some of the main differences in my lesson that I gave myself, understanding a system and being able to implement those changes. So the first thing would be the ball position for me, just building in a straighter shot. So if I draw in the centre of the swing here, this is the before one was on the right. So for me here, the radius is built in, the ball is too far back. It's creating a little bit too much downward angle of attack and too much of a push pattern. So there'd be a necessity for me to start the ball on line. I'd have to square the face to get the ball to hit the target line. I'd have to close the face to the arc, because this, as you can see here, the red line is built in. If we look at that right of the arc and downward. Okay, so the difference in my setup here would be, if we draw my centre of the swing in again, just here, and then if we draw the radius, you can see here the ball position, it's further forward. I draw my target line, attack. It's not so to the right. So I'm starting to deliver a little bit less, more loft as well, which is fantastic. So if we move those out of the way. The other key thing in my backswing here would be how much I utilise the wrists. You can see here the one on the left here that the wrists are not as hinged as much, so this has less effect. If I bring this down now that the shaft is not leaning forward as much, so the contact here is lower on the face. Definitely see this one here much higher on the face, one on the left which is lower, so resulting in a slightly better launch, a little bit more spin. So I was able to control the flight of the ball and control the ball once it hit the ground much better. So moving on to the third fundamental, which would be the direction, and understanding that the club face, how the club face is controlled by the hands and the wrists throughout the arc. I was able to identify why I was pulling the ball and starting the ball left. So because my ball position was shifted too far back in the stance originally, which was this one on the right, my path or my arc of my swing was shifted too much to the right this way. So having the ball back in the stance can shift the path to the right. Okay, so effectively there's too much push built in. So in order for me to hit the ball straight, I would have to twist the club face close to the arc. Now this would impart some side spin, and in turn it would de-loft the club face, making it more likely that I'd hit the ball higher on the face. So that was understanding, again, relating to one of my problems in terms of strike. Now if I run this through, club face is looking good on the way back, but again, with too much right with swing direction, I'd have to close the face. So you can see that ball would start left. So the first place I would start to look at it through this arc is, where is this club face looking a little closed? So it looks pretty good here. And then through here, I would see an excessive amount of rotation. So the first thing I would start to work on here would be, along with previously working on not angling the club, not setting the wrists as much on the way back. This would be on the follow through arc, keeping some loft on the face, keeping the club face feeling squarer to these red lines I've drawn on the ground. So if we work this through, you can see here there's not as much wrist hinge as the one on the back, as the one on the right here. And then if we move that through to the follow through arc, we can see here the club face. Now if you look at the club face, we look at the club face angle there, you can see how it's twisted to the left, as the one here has stayed squarer to the arc. Okay, so that club face is much more stable, and if we look at the ball start lines as well, the ball started much straighter, as opposed to this one here on the right, which was before the ball started left. With the path and with the plane shifted to the right, this ball is going to spin to the left. It's going to come out with less spin, and we're going to struggle to control that. So there you go, understanding the system and the model. So the understanding that contact is the key, first place to look, the accumulation of power, and then the direction. Understanding that and the pieces that are involved with that, I was able to self-diagnose and able to implement into my practice immediately. So I wasn't out there throwing different pieces at my golf swing. So I was able then to go out and practice, and that be a confidence building exercise, rather than coming away feeling that I've wasted time and that it was useless, and actually feeling worse after my practice sessions, which certainly in the past I've done. So hopefully this video will help you guys. If you want any more information or any more ideas on how you can implement this into your game, or you need some help with your games, again, my system-based teaching is available, and my system-based teaching will help identify any problem, any player, and put you on the right trajectory in order to gain the improvement that you want. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys.